Bitcoin is starting off 2026 with an impressive 10% rip, one of the better openings of the year we've seen in quite some time. But the real question on everybody's mind is what comes next? Are we watching a fake out rally before a typical brutal bear market year? Or is this the moment the 4-year cycle finally ends and we push toward new all-time highs? And while everybody is staring at charts, something big just happened in Washington. A major bill in Congress was quietly delayed, and the blame seems to be centering squarely on Coinbase CEO Brian Armstrong. So, what does this mean? Does this setback hurt Bitcoin, or is it actually a removal of barriers? We're going to chat a little bit about that. On top of that, some major outlets like Bernstein Research, Fundstrat, they're turning aggressively bullish. They're throwing out price targets that smash through expectations and may come sooner than some people would expect. So we're breaking it all down today, the price action, the politics, the bigger forces shaping the market. And we've got our special guest, Joe Consorti, on to fill us in. So lock in, drop a like on the video, and stay tuned. You're not going to want to miss this one. I am Ben with the BTC Sessions. This is your weekly session. All right, I want to welcome, of course, my co-host with the most, Nathan Fitzsimmons, a BTC mentor, and of course, our special guest for this week, Joe Consorti. Joe, good to see you, man. How you doing?
Doing great. Thank you guys for having me. Last time I was on, I think a week or two ago, Bitcoin is up 12%, so nothing to complain about.
Yeah, that's not a bad way to start the first couple weeks of the year. It's feeling pretty decent here. So, I mean, I guess first off, I mentioned it off the top of the show. What the hell is this bill? I believe the Clarity Act. What is going on there? What happened? Why was Brian Armstrong in a tizzy about this? Is this positive or negative? What's going on, man?
Yeah, so the Clarity Act, broad strokes of it is that the idea is to establish a regulatory framework for Bitcoin and other digital assets more broadly. I'm going to keep putting those in quotation marks until the day that I die. But, it does have a lot to do with Bitcoin, obviously, because Bitcoin is bundled in with the rest of the crypto stuff. So the general themes of it, number one, we're clearly dividing oversight between the SEC, so more securities-like tokens, and then the CFTC, which obviously has currently exclusive jurisdiction over these like digital commodity markets, primarily Bitcoin. And so it was meant to do kind of establish ownership of those two things, clearly create a demarcation line between those two, and also provide paths to registration for exchanges, brokers and dealers and things of that sort. So it hasn't passed yet. Obviously, you had mentioned it hasn't passed. Brian Armstrong is one of the key reasons why that hasn't happened. He put out a tweet basically saying that the bill currently makes the state of Bitcoin and crypto in the United States materially worse than the current status quo. He cited the following. He said that it's a de facto ban on tokenized equities, that it prohibits and basically functionally restricts DeFi. And that this is the key piece, because Coinbase has really been hammering this over the last couple of months, is that it limits or bans stable coin rewards. Obviously, one of the key reasons that the bill probably pushes to do that is because stablecoin rewards, these yields that can be offered on stablecoins, directly compete with bank deposits. And the last thing that banks would want to do is see capital flight to assets that are yielding higher, right? Particularly with really clean on-ramps. Like on-ramps are great these days as long as you're willing to KYC. And so the speed at which people could take their money out of their bank and put it onto Coinbase or another platform into a stable coin to generate a more favorable yield, they're so efficient and it can happen so quickly. And so lots of choke points that are in this bill that are kind of making it stall in the Senate. Brian Armstrong doesn't like the current state of it. So yeah, it's mostly banking lobby opposition and lots of infighting in Washington. So
are they so spooked about the idea of funds leaving banks because of the example of, say, Silvergate that imploded seemingly overnight a couple of years back? Like, did that give them a little dry run taste of what things could look like if there was an incentive to do so?
I mean, it certainly could. That certainly could be a key reason. But the industry has matured and evolved so much between then and now. Like when Silvergate exploded, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that was before even FTX went under. I think that was around the time, if not a little bit before, FTX went under, BlockFi. And so when it comes to yield, like the yield that can be offered with these stablecoin products, it's much more mature than it was. And so that could be a reason. But time and again, what we've seen in Washington is that what they like to do is stifle innovation more than anything else. And so that's a reason they could cite, but chances are it's just the banking lobby trying to strike something down that may be an existential threat to them.
I was going to tag in something else. I mentioned off the top of the show. There's a few kind of, we'll say the general sentiment on some of the TradFi outlets and some of the people that do market research, like Bernstein. I mentioned Bernstein. They said they believe that they said we believe with reasonable confidence that Bitcoin and broader digital asset markets have bottomed. And then they put out some forecasts. They think that 2026 up year, we're going to be seeing upwards of 150K. And they put a peak in for 2027. I guess, it may be kind of zooming out as like a greater cycle thing, but they're saying 200K 2027. When you see firms like this come out with those types of, ballpark numbers, are you seeing them as reasonable? Do you think it's out to lunch? Do you think they're conservative? Where do you sit?
Ultimately, I don't lend too much credence to the institutions putting out price targets because last year, and I said this on the show before too, JP Morgan put out a price target of $170,000. Morgan Stanley was right around there too. End of year 2025, they were wrong. And so rather than looking at price targets, I like to think of, okay, these major financial institutions, these major banks, if they're putting out those price targets, what kind of impact is that going to have on investor behavior? And the second order effect of these price targets is what I'm more interested in. And the reality is, like, these major financial institutions putting in these price targets, particularly now that we've exhausted a lot of the things that have been keeping Bitcoin down, namely selling pressure from long-term holders and a lot of OG whales. I tend to think that the impact of these headlines is going to be pretty big on Bitcoin heading into 2026, but that remains to be seen. We've broken past a lot of key levels here. As I mentioned, we're up 12% since I was last on the show. Bitcoin it actually had record low volatility. I put out a tweet, which is kind of wild to think about. It makes sense because Bitcoin's such a large asset, but considering what gold and silver did last year, you think Bitcoin may be a part of the party as well. But it wasn't. And so as a result of that extreme consolidation, volatility was at an all-time low on a 10 and 7-day rolling basis. And now we've broken out of that. We've broken out of the range that we were in. We've broken above the 50-day moving average. There's still a couple of key levels above us, but the current market structure, the fact that we're breaking past these levels, a lot of the selling pressure is now behind us. And you've got these bullish price targets out. That makes me very optimistic as we head into 2026.
Nathan, before you dive in with some questions, I'm sure you've got some itching ones. But yesterday we were chatting on the show with some guests in and around Bitwise. They came out with kind of some research that they did. They looked back over the past decade at the traditional 60-40 portfolio, the traditional 60-40, except for you've taken 15% and just allocated to gold. And then they took that same 15% and split it between gold and Bitcoin. And then they compared the Sharpe ratios across those. And they found that adding gold more or less doubled the Sharpe ratio, and adding a split of Bitcoin gold basically tripled it from the typical 60-40. Did you see this? And what do you think when you hear that?
Oh, I thought you were asking Nathan. I did not see that, but it's no surprise to me, right? We've seen time and again that even a small allocation of Bitcoin in a portfolio can measurably improve risk-adjusted returns. And so it doesn't surprise me at all. Taking a 15% allocation, throwing it into gold. Obviously, if you exclude the last 18 months, 24 months, chances are it doesn't improve the Sharpe ratio all that much. But because of the insane price action that you've seen over the last 24 months, in particular for gold, that's one of the main reasons for it in my mind. So on a go-forward basis, I would say that even though splitting that 15% of the portfolio between Bitcoin and gold tripled the Sharpe ratio relative to just the 60-40 portfolio, I'd wager that if you take that entire 15% and you throw it into Bitcoin, over the next several years, as Bitcoin has quite a lot of catching up to do, not just to equities, but to global liquidity, then that's going to be massive as far as the 60-40 portfolio is concerned. I don't even know why people are writing about the 60-40 portfolio anymore, really.
That's fair. That's fair. Nathan, I'll let you take the helm if you've got a few you want to throw in here.
No, absolutely. Yeah, I think particularly with bonds is kind of dead. It's not a great time, I think, still to be buying bonds. I wouldn't be putting my money there. I don't think it's necessarily a safe place to be. Me, I'm more of a leverage the house and buy nothing but Bitcoin. But hey, I'm just a crazy kid like that. I want to ask, because I saw even I was gonna say a day or two ago, it seemed like we had quite the sell wall hanging around 94. We did chew through that and break above. I'm curious, what are the key kind of targets that we have in front of us? What we should be watching out for, and if there's any hurdles you think are in the way right now.
Absolutely. So I'll go ahead and share my screen and show a couple of them. So the first one that comes to mind actually is the short-term holder realized price. So this is the average short-term holder cost basis across the network. And the reason that I bring this one up first is because it's the first one up. This is from an on-chain perspective, the average price at which these new market entrants bought in. Now, this is going to prove to be a pretty significant level of support. It has been a pretty big level of support in the past and resistance. And so people who entered the market less than 155 days ago, on average, they're underwater. And so chances are, in order to recoup their losses or sell at break even, they're going to be selling right above where we are now. You can see back in April, we exploded through this, but it did take us a little while before we moved cleanly off of it. You could see from late April all the way through early May. So about a week to 2 weeks, we spent a lot of time just hovering above it as we worked through that sell pressure. And then we eventually broke back over it. So that level is at $96,000 to $98,000. So that's the next thing to watch out for. The other level to watch out for that's still ahead of us, I mentioned we broke the 50-day moving average, is the 50-week moving average. I'll actually go ahead and zoom in a little bit here. You can see that once Bitcoin broke below both of these things all the way back during the prior cycle, late 2021, it was basically over. And then there was a brief moment in early 2022 where it looked like we may be back into bull market mode, but Bitcoin wasn't able to break and hold above that 50-week moving average. Every single time Bitcoin has done that, we've firmly entered into a bear market. And so now we've passed kind of the first test, if you will, of breaking past this shorter, more volatile moving average with the 50-day moving average. And now the next test that kind of remains in front of us is this 50-week moving average. That's at $101,000. So the key levels to watch from here are if we can break and hold above 98K, and then if we can break and hold above 101,000. And the key through all of this, not just the levels, but what's actually driving that move. So the reason that you see this insane amount of chop through here is because there was just no spot volume. Interest in Bitcoin was largely dead. Spot buyers were nowhere to be seen, and price was being thrown around largely by people who were just punting leverage back and forth. Over the last couple of days, and this actually led to a pretty substantial short squeeze, which sent Bitcoin from 93 all the way up to 98, is the fact that the market is now dominated by spot buyers, and there's a lot of short pressure that's building up on the other side. So that sets up the conditions quite nicely for a short squeeze. We had one yesterday. It looked like we were going to have another one into the afternoon, but we did not. And so this market structure where it's primarily dominated by spot, that's much more sustainable because there's no price at which they get stopped out of their positions, then they become forced to liquidate. So that's exactly what you want to see. Those are the key levels that await us, and time will tell. The main thing that will kind of determine whether or not we see a continuation, whether or not we actually break these levels, is if that spot volume can continue to hold.
Interesting. I do want to tease that apart just a little bit, Joe. For anyone that maybe is newcomer to the channel, hasn't heard these terms before, when you say short squeeze, what exactly is at play there? How is that having any impact on price? What are we seeing?
Yeah, so basically what it means is that a lot of people are borrowing money in order to sell Bitcoin short. So they're borrowing somebody else's Bitcoin and selling it short. And when you do that, there's a price. If Bitcoin rises to this price, you get stopped out, which means that you become a forced seller. Now, yesterday, or 2 days ago, rather, you could see on this next chart that I will show, basically, this is exactly what happened. So I'll go ahead and share something else actually right here. So this is a chart. It tends to get pretty complicated, but all you need to know is that when the funding rate down here goes red, when you see these red bars, that means in the perpetual futures market, shorts are paying longs a premium to enter their positions, which means that shorts are more dominant. And when that happens, there's a buildup in these positions where if price rises too quickly or rises to a certain level, they become forced sellers. And that's exactly what you saw here. This is the total amount of contracts that are outstanding. You see a major buildup in shorts, and then all of a sudden, price moved high too quickly, and they became forced sellers, and that pushed Bitcoin from 94 all the way up to 95. And we saw another one over here. That was paired with really high spot volume. So on the other side of this, people purchasing spot Bitcoin rather than using leverage in order to purchase it. which drove both of these two successive short squeezes. It seemed like we were going to have another one, but we didn't. And so that's essentially what it means. When you buy Bitcoin on leverage, you have a much higher likelihood of getting wrecked. And so that's what's happening now. Whereas previously it was people who were trying to buy Bitcoin on leverage to go long. Now it's people who are selling Bitcoin on leverage. And that dynamic is exactly what you want to see in order to see Bitcoin's price move higher.
Oh, that's beautiful. And I love that also, like just a couple of weeks ago, you called this with the low volatility on the podcast. Like that was just beautiful and wonderful timing to start off the year. I did quickly just want to unpack one other element too and get your opinion and thoughts on it. And then Ben, I promise to pass the mic back, was with what's going on with the Clarity Act and in between like with Brian Armstrong's recent comments and things as well too. It very much to me feels like infighting between like crypto exchanges and the banks, right? Between two different groups, it's like, hey, which one of us is going to profit from this? I'm wondering if you think that this really will have any impact specifically on Bitcoin. Because again, it feels to me like a crypto problem. And again, just infighting on who's going to profit, not necessarily bearish or bullish news for Bitcoin, the asset.
I tend to agree. And ultimately, you can look to price to see what the reaction to this news is, how the market stomachs this. And in advance of the Clarity Act being voted on in the Senate, Bitcoin was moving higher, but now that it has been delayed, Bitcoin isn't really moving any lower. It's just chopping sideways. And so that tells you Bitcoin was moving higher while the Clarity Act looked like it was going to get passed, but it didn't move higher because the Clarity Act looked like it was going to get passed. And so that tells you, that's a preview, that whether or not this bill gets passed, Bitcoin isn't going to have a reaction one way or another. It's more something that concerns the rest of the market, right? Bitcoin at this stage is very institutionalized. BlackRock's most successful ETF is the IBIT Bitcoin ETF. It's proven to be extremely popular. And ultimately, there aren't a great, like Bitcoin's value proposition is not the value proposition of these tokens. These tokens need the Clarity Act in order to be able to operate at the scale that they want to in the United States. Bitcoin doesn't necessarily need that, right? So while a market structure bill is needed, Bitcoin isn't the one that's extremely desperate for it at this point in time. And so whether or not it passes, I don't think Bitcoin will have a very great reaction one way or another. So if we see continued delays, if we see this get thrown out entirely, I tend to not think it's going to have any major impact on Bitcoin's price, which is good news for Bitcoiners, bad news for any crypto holders, any of the XRP army or whatever that's sitting in the audience right now. It's bad news for you guys, but for Bitcoin, we're chilling.
Sorry, guys. Sorry. This is refreshing because while Bitcoin hasn't yet, I feel, been fully separated out from the riffraff, we're seeing signs of it. We're seeing the Bitcoiners themselves kind of just ignore the clown show that's happening off to the side and go about their business, and markets reacting as such. I still do see sprinklings of it and people trying to lump them all together. But given that the Clarity Act and everything doesn't seem to be having much of an impact on Bitcoin and the way that it's trading and the price and all of that, is there anything in a kind of at the geopolitical level that you're seeing right now that might have some impact on it? Are there any major world events, government actions, things that we may see come up in 2026 that could begin to exert some pressure on the price up or down?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So obviously we're seeing the United States talk about Iran and what's happening over there. Recently, we saw the United States enter into Venezuela and capture Maduro in the middle of the night. Neither of those things really had a material impact on Bitcoin's price. From a macro perspective, the major thing that I'm looking at is voting on whether or not these tariffs are Trump's tariffs can continue. The Supreme Court is slated; they're scheduled to vote on whether or not these tariffs are legal. And so far, that was delayed as well. So that decision was supposed to come this Wednesday. That decision was delayed. Bitcoin has been doing quite well. I tend to think that if the tariffs get struck down, Bitcoin's going to have an exceedingly positive reaction, because one of the things that you saw was that on Liberation Day, immediately on the announcement of the tariffs, Bitcoin did very well, and then all of a sudden it did very poorly, and it fell, I think, 8 to 10%. And so that tells you Bitcoin, this global macro asset, it doesn't necessarily like tariffs. It doesn't necessarily like this deglobalization dynamic as much as we may have otherwise thought. That could be because a great deal of Bitcoin is now held by US-based institutions. Whatever the reason, Bitcoin doesn't necessarily like, from a price action perspective, this deglobalization. And so I tend to think one of the major things that could be weighing on Bitcoin's price now, that could be a huge positive catalyst going forward, is the Supreme Court's decision on whether or not these tariffs can continue. If they strike it down, I tend to think that's going to be very positive for Bitcoin in the near term. You're going to see a pretty big pump. But I do think regardless, right, Bitcoin is kind of inevitable money. Ultimately, these tariffs don't have much to do with Bitcoin in the way of its price. People could be trading Bitcoin as a method of hedging that, but I tend to think that that's probably the biggest thing on my radar as of right now is when that decision actually gets voted on by the Supreme Court, or ruled on rather. And but over a long enough time horizon, I think that it just becomes another non-event.
I got to ask though, Joe, because I'm just so unbelievably curious. Would the U.S. buying Greenland be bullish for Bitcoin? Because I saw there were some representatives actually meeting at the White House.
I did see that as well. I mean, ultimately, I think everything is bullish for Bitcoin, right? The United States is in a position where it needs Greenland. We're kind of moving toward this world where we care less about our involvement in NATO, and we care less about our involvement in Europe overseas broadly, and we care more about dominating the Western Hemisphere. And so I think that this all kind of plays into. Obviously, Trump has proven to be a very pro-Bitcoin president. At least that's what he's trying to do. And so I think anything that he can do that's in his favor, one of the main things on his docket right now is wanting to purchase Greenland, would be bullish for the asset itself. And I think that, the United States cementing its hegemony in the Western Hemisphere, being able to purchase Greenland so that it can exert even more influence in the Western Hemisphere, I think that may be a bullish development for Bitcoin, but that's kind of a stretch, but we'll see.
I absolutely love that we're at this place in the world too. And just by the way, I mean, if Greenland says no, I hear Canada is single, so we can always keep that in mind. Ben,
that's fantastic.
I was just going to say, I mean, it could be an excellent place for the strategic Bitcoin reserve cold storage.
Yep.
That's right. Exactly. It's very cold up there. The United States could purchase Alberta too, depending on how things go.
I mean,
I'm accepting offers.
Yeah. Anything's better than what we got right now. Yeah. And we'll be touching on some Alberta stuff later in the show as well. I just wanted to maybe ask one more quick question. You mentioned, in terms of where Bitcoin is sitting right now, and indications of what may be coming trajectory wise for the rest of the year. You indicated staying above 101K decisively could be a good indication that this is the direction that we're going to be headed. Is there a downside point where you would say, yeah, I'm pretty sure we're in for a bear market? Is there a point where it's that possibility is out the window?
Yeah, so I would say number one, if we, I'll go ahead and share my screen once more. If we break down underneath the 50-day moving average again, and we cannot reclaim it, then that would be something that turns me very bearish. So you could see that on basically the first attempt, we were able to break up above the 50-day moving average. On the first retest, we bounced right off of it. And so that is really encouraging to me. In fact, it's even better than Bitcoin did on its first attempt at recovering last March. You could see it bounced off of it, fell even lower, and then bounced off of this level here, the 50-week moving average. So falling back below the 50-day moving average would be number one, if we do fail to break this. But number two, if we fall down below the 50 or the 200-week moving average, which is right here, all the way down at 57K, that is like your bear market floor. So as far as what would flip my mind from bullish to bearish, is if we don't see continued spot volume, if we see continued sideways choppiness, if we lose this level that we just gained and we fail to break up beyond the short-term holder cost basis and beyond 101K. But most importantly, if we lose this level and we continue declining, and then also if we decline more than 35%. So this would be another level I would watch, that $80,000 level. And then if we break both of those, namely 80K, I would say bear market is in store. And then your floor price becomes around wherever the 200 week moving average happens to be at that point in time. It's at 60K right now. So those are the levels that we would have to lose in order for me to get bearish on Bitcoin. And then I would also be looking for a broader reversal in equity. So I would be looking for the S&P 500, the Russell, the NASDAQ, all to start falling. If anything, right now, I believe this is hugely bullish for BTC. If we reclaim these levels, we're going to see 126K with haste, probably at some point in the first quarter. But Bitcoin can move even faster than that. I mean, just look at silver, right? Silver it went from a sub $2 trillion asset, which is what Bitcoin is now, to a $5.1 trillion asset in 6 months. and it's now the second largest asset in the world. And so one of the things that I've talked about on the show before is this idea of like diminishing marginal returns. Oh, Bitcoin's such a big asset right now, I can't really move as quickly as maybe it once did. Gold and silver completely disproved that over the last year and a half. So particularly silver over the last 6 months. So I'd say if we break both of those levels, it's off to the races. New all-time highs are imminent in a couple of weeks after we do that. But if we just continue to see, if we have a reversal here, we break back down below the 50-day moving average, and we break down below 80K with force, then I would say that look out down below. It's a bear market. Maybe lower your daily DCA for a little while.
Yeah. All this talk is 58K gang frothing at the mouth.
It's immediately what I heard. It's like, oh, we're going down around
Here.
57. I'm like, hey, so worst case scenario, 58K gain gets a win. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, amazing. Nathan, anything else coming up for you that you wanted to tap Joe for before we round out here?
No, I'm good. I'm solid. I can't wait to get you back on. We'll get the next update next time.
Joe, this was this was fantastic. Maybe actually, if you can, point people towards yourself and Horizon. Let people know where they can find you and what you're up to.
Yeah, of course, absolutely. So thank you so much for having me on again. As usual, it's always a blast. If you want to see more of my work, you could just go to @JoeConsorti on Twitter, same exact way that it's spelled right here. And if you want to check out Horizon, go to joinhorizon.com. If you're living in the United States, we help you convert your home equity to Bitcoin. So if that's of interest to you, if you want to stack some sats without additional monthly payments, without taking on debt, then we're a company that can help you do that.
Joe, my friend, I was having a cigar with the other night, and he said this multiple times, so this isn't out of character for him, but he said, sell your house and buy Bitcoin.
There's an even better way. You could convert your house into Bitcoin now. You can live in your Bitcoin. That's what we're facilitating.
There you go. Amazing. Joe, thank you so much. It was an absolute pleasure, and we'll see you again soon.
Absolutely. Thank you, gentlemen. Peace.
Sure. All right. And Nathan, we're gonna keep it up here. We've got plenty to talk about, including is Canada going to take advice from Keir Starmer from the UK and ban X? Is it too dangerous of a platform? And what other kinds of crazy censorship is going on in the wild world that we live in? Censorship resistance is key. We know that with money, but we also need it with speech. We're going to be touching on that a little bit in just a moment. If you guys are new to the channel, make sure you are subscribed. If you're enjoying the conversation, including all the knowledge bombs that Joe Consorti was nice enough to drop on us, make sure you drop a like on the video. And we will be back in 1 minute after a quick shout out from our sponsors to chat everything censorship resistant. See you guys in a sec. Bitcoin Well is the best place to be buying and selling Bitcoin in Canada and the US. And now with Bitcoin Well Infinite, it's also the best place to be making large buys at their OTC desk of over $50,000. Their white glove service gives you fast transactions, no slippage, and the lowest fees. You can scan the QR code on the screen or simply head to bitcoinwell.com/BTC Sessions to sign up today. And you can share your own personalized referral link to earn commissions. CoinKite has been in the game for years, creating hands down the best and most secure hardware when it comes to securing your Bitcoin. The Cold Card Q is an absolute powerhouse and my daily driver, and it's ideal for newcomers and advanced users alike. The Tap Signer gives you a low-cost, user-friendly option for those just getting started or for convenience when traveling. You can head to coinkite.com and use code BTC Sessions for discounts, or simply scan the QR code on the screen to get started right away. One company I like pointing people to when they ask about Bitcoin mining is Abundant Mines. They were founded by Bo and Christine Turner after losing over $500,000 to broken promises in the mining industry. And they built their hosting model to remove the usual headaches. With Abundant Mines, you own your machines and keep 100% of the Bitcoin you mine. There's no revenue share, no hidden skims. Pricing is simple. One flat monthly fee covers power, parts, labor, and repairs. They also guarantee uptime. If a machine goes down, their hash rate redirect system routes hash power from their fleet so earnings don't just stop, and every machine is insured at full replacement value. Everything is hosted in the US, powered by Hydro, and mining equipment may qualify for 100% year one bonus depreciation. Learn more at abundantmines.com/sessions. Boom, we are back in, and so there was some spicy stuff going around. We know the UK is no fan of free speech. I think they're rounding up people by the thousands for social media posts on the regular, arrests flying around that country like nothing else. I think I saw something where it was like the percentage or the amount of people arrested in the UK was like 10x that of like Russia in terms of Soviet.
Things are pretty bad over there right now. It's just god awful.
Yeah. Well, we had a member of our team send us a photo. He was out in London for something. He's like, "Oh, great, good to see." And it was like just a government vehicle with a camera, and it literally said on the side of the vehicle, facial recognition in progress. And it was just like they're scanning people on the street just because they want to know who you are, what you're doing, where you're going. Wild. Absolutely wild.
This isn't communist China. This isn't Mao coming down and cracking on. It's the UK, where, by the way, we had to think of Idris Elba was advocating for no pointless knives, because that's what we need to do. Because that's the main issue. If we just dull the tip of the knife, no one will hurt each other anymore, guys.
Yeah. Idris Elba is pointless.
He did screw Trudeau's wife, so hey, to each their own.
Oh my. Oh Lord. Okay. So this was a few days ago. UK, Canada, and Australia considering coordinated ban on X, believing that doing it together will send a powerful message to Elon Musk. Again, it is the number one. When you look under news app, it's number one across all of these countries. Well, good news.
Good news. Surprising.
Yeah. So the Canadian government basically said no, despite taking a call with Keir Starmer. Fuck that guy. On the matter yesterday, the Canadian government has said it does not want to ban X. He tried to encourage Canada to join him in a multi-country ban. Basil the Great finished by saying Keir Starmer is a loser. Agreed.
Yep.
Yeah, so pretty wild. And this was not the only L that Starmer got as of late. Keir Starmer defeated digital ID scrapped. Victory for freedom and common sense. Starmer has just announced he's abandoned all plans to implement digital ID. To everyone who stood against it, to everyone who fought, take a bow. Well done. We can beat this government. That is great. But one, they're just going to rebrand it and try to do it again. And two, he is not done, man. Like he is not finished. This was just from the other day. Zia Yusuf tweets, Starmer is now coming after your end-to-end encrypted messaging, apps like WhatsApp and iMessage. Things you say in your private conversations are about to become fair game for government to arrest you over. It's coming within months. Section 121 of the Orwellian Online Safety Act that the Tories passed hands Ofcom the powers to compel any messaging platform to do client-side scanning, meaning the tech firm must use accredited technology to scan your messages for content the government deems harmful. To start with, it's child abuse and terrorism, of course, who would argue with that? But make no mistake, before you know it, all the things the police use as an excuse to turn up at people's doors for things they say on public platforms will be used to persecute citizens for things they say in private. All your messages will be scanned in real time as you send them, not just the suspicious ones or flagged ones. Starmer is turning your phone into a real-time government informant. The government has been working to make encryption irrelevant for years. That's why Apple withdrew their advanced data protection service from the UK. They refused the government demands. This is unprecedented territory for this country. Lord Hanson of Flint, who is leading this awful mission, has set a date of April 2026 for Ofcom to enforce these powers. The era of private messages being private is about to come to an end. Reform will repeal this surveillance app. Anyways, this was an op-ed from Zia Yusuf here. Pretty wild. This is not the only thing, but Nathan, I want to get your thoughts before I also bring up another little piece of ironic news out of the UK.
They're not going to let this go. And I think they'll keep hammering it. And if not him, it'll be the next guy or the guy after the guy after. They're all little dicked assholes who want to, or if, you know, they can't do the comment sections. We either got to censor or we got to make sure we throw them in jail for what they say. It's absolutely ridiculous. And I don't perceive, like, we can buy time, right? We can buy time and try and defeat these things in the interim, but you've got to learn the tools to get around this sort of information and protect yourself. Because even things that you say today that might not be, you know, hate speech, lock you up kind of crimes, they might be later, and they're going to log all that data, and they might come back to you as well too. I'm reminded of the guy who was in the US who took a picture of him holding a shotgun. He wasn't even holding it correctly. And then he was getting detained when he went back to the UK for posting the picture of him with a gun, because that's how unbelievably ridiculous and over the top and tyrannical it's gotten. I don't see it getting better. I hope the friends in the UK can get the hell out of there, and at the very least start to use the tools to protect themselves.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. I want to show one other thing. So I'm not gonna try to really pronounce this last name correctly, but Eva Vladinger Brook.
That was a very good attempt. I don't know the right answer, but that definitely was an attempt.
Yeah. So she was huge during the Dutch farmer protests. And so she continues to advocate for just kind of I guess she's looking at immigration policy, things like that. And in relation to this X thing, she posted on X, Keir Starmer. I don't even know if I can read this without us getting the boot off of YouTube. So I'll be cautious with my words here. Keir Starmer wants to crack down on X under the pretense of women's safety, whilst he's the one allowing the ongoing something and something of British girls by something
gangs.
Yeah.
Fill in the blanks there. Zoom in.
Exactly. So she tweeted this basically. She's saying, he's banning free speech. Meanwhile, all this other stuff is happening. And for that post, she won the prize of her being banned from the UK. So the irony of the state of things in the UK right now, with their policies and kind of the violence that they've seen, and then the criticism of it on a social media platform resulting in somebody being banned from coming there. I don't know what to do with this level of irony. I'm a little.
It's so over the top. It's anarcho-tyranny. Like, that's what we're devolving into, is anarcho-tyranny. And as an anarcho-capitalist, I'm very much against the anarcho-tyranny, because essentially the rules will only be enforced to control and punish you. They will not be enforced to protect you. They will not be enforced to help you, right? It's amazing to me that it's gotten this bad, right? Even in the UK, right? There's a little bit of a different kind of culture there, so to Western Alberta, to Western Canada, to the US as well too. But this has gotten unbelievably over. Although I will tell you, there's a nice silver lining. I'm very excited to see what kind of comedy and weird UK words we get at, because they have a long history of making up funny expressions for things, having a wonderful dry wit and a lot of sarcasm, because they have to hide the actual message. So at least we know we'll have some sort of weird British slang to get around the censors. But still, like, it's so unbelievably over the top and just ridiculous that you can't help but think this is parody at times.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. And again, it just points to the need for something where the conversation around shutting down an online platform for speech is not even a conversation, because it's not possible. Again, so things like Nostr, things like something we're going to be chatting about in the next segment, BitChat, things that allow people to communicate without anybody being able to tell them no. And we know Bitcoiners that are watching this understand that about money, but it's equally important for speech as well. And so we're going to be chatting some more about that and some interesting stuff that have kind of materialized both across the pond and other parts of the world as well, but also right here at home. And we both sat through, watched, or were involved in directly the Canadian trucker protest just a few years ago, and that was very informative as to how far the Canadian government will go to stamp out a movement they do not like. Right now, there's a big movement happening in Alberta that I'm certain Canada as a whole does not like. And if what they did in 2022 is any indication, we haven't seen anything yet. And as this thing gets more serious, we're going to need all the tools that we can use to make sure the job gets done. So we're going to chat about that in a moment, as well as some other interesting things around the globe. If you're enjoying the conversation, make sure you drop a like on the video. Of course, if you're new here, welcome. And please do subscribe, and we'll be back in just a minute to chat everything censorship resistant and the tools of our Bitcoin revolutionaries. We'll see you guys in a sec. Looking for a simple and secure way to manage your Bitcoin on mobile? AQUA Wallet has you covered. It's user-friendly and puts you in full control of your Bitcoin with secure self-custody. AQUA also supports Lightning and Liquid Network, making fast, cheap Bitcoin payments and asset transfers easier than ever. Plus, it even supports stablecoins, giving you ultimate flexibility. Built on open source code, AQUA is transparent, trustworthy, and perfect for beginner and pros alike. Ready to upgrade your Bitcoin experience? Click the link in the show notes or scan the QR code on the screen now to download AQUA Wallet today. Securing your Bitcoin doesn't have to be complicated or invasive. With NUNCHUK's HONEYBADGER plan, you get state-of-the-art multisig with built-in inheritance planning and no KYC required. NUNCHUK is trusted by users to secure billions of dollars in Bitcoin. The HONEYBADGER plan offers 204 assisted multisig, guiding you step-by-step on mobile or desktop. It works seamlessly with hardware wallets like TapSigner, Coldcard, Jade, and plenty of others, so you're always in control. Plus, with non-KYC inheritance planning, you can ensure your Bitcoin goes to your loved ones. No private info needed. Take control of your Bitcoin today. Click the link in the show notes or scan the QR code on the screen to check out the HONEYBADGER plan. Debify is the best and easiest way to borrow against your Bitcoin in a non-custodial way. Funds are held in a multisig escrow where you hold a key, and the platform allows for excellent hardware like the Coldcard Mark IV and the Q. You have access to flexible conditions, the best rates, and institutional-grade liquidity. If you're looking to make use of your capital, don't sell your Bitcoin, borrow against it. You can head over to debify.com to check them out, or simply scan the QR code on the screen.
Let's go.
We are back in, and we've got a number of things to touch on, and I'm not quite certain where I want to start with this. And I do think I want to hone in on Alberta first. And this is very important. Why is this important? And I want to chat about this first from the perspective of a Bitcoiner. Why, if you're not in Alberta, you're not in Canada, why should you be giving a shit about what's going on here? There's an excellent book by the name of The Sovereign Individual. And it was written in 1996, and it is near and dear to a lot of Bitcoiners. And what it does is it outlines what the authors believed would come to fruition in the digital age. And they actually chatted about the need for a sovereign digital money in it as well. They already talk about the idea of flag theory and people being able to go and work wherever they please in the digital age. And so it was very prescient when it was written. In fact, they even talked about the idea of large nation states inevitably breaking apart into smaller, more locally governed, small, like mini states, supposedly. And it leaned into the idea of Canada being one of the first nations that is likely to experience that. Now, this thing was written in the mid-90s when we were near the peak of the Quebec separation effort. And so Quebec, the French-speaking side of Canada, they wanted to separate. They wanted to be their own country, and they voted on it. They actually had a referendum vote, and they came within 1% of actually having a majority. They just failed. Now, at the time of the book, they hadn't yet voted. But the book actually, as it got into it, didn't say that Quebec would be the first to go. They actually said Alberta. And they honed in on that because, well, Alberta is very energy rich. We have a lot of oil and gas, natural resources. And the way that things work, Alberta despite being a large swath of the income for the country as a whole and being forced to pay out money to the provinces that aren't as full of different resources and energy and industry. We basically pay them. And we don't have much in terms of voting power. When it comes to per capita, if you're on the East Coast, you basically have 4 times the voting power. Your vote actually has 4 times the influence as somebody living in Alberta. So despite being a major revenue driver for the country, which puts a lot of roadblocks in the way of our industries, we don't get to vote for better policy, or we're not as effective. And so what's playing out now is Alberta, there's a major separation movement. It was very much dismissed in the early days, but it's beginning to snowball, and we're seeing it. And people are getting either very excited or very, very worried. And so first, I want to show this video here. This was from a rally. This is a city north of us by about an hour and a half. I think a couple hours.
45 minutes if you're moving quick.
Yeah, depends how gutsy you're being. So I'm not going to put on the volume here, but I will speed up the video 2x. And I just want you to see, this is very early days of collecting signatures for the petition that would trigger a referendum vote, okay? So this is perusing down the line the other night of people lining up to this town hall to sign the petition. What is needed to trigger a referendum vote is 177,000 signatures. This is just one event. There are events happening every night, every other night, all throughout the province. Nathan, you were saying there was one the other night, and the attendance, even though it was in a small town, the attendance was greater than the entire population of the town.
Yeah, 100%. The town, I was looking at, I was trying to find the most latest data, but in 2021, the town's population was roughly about 1,000 people, and there was 1,800 that showed up to sign the signature. And don't forget, guys, this is Canada in January in the winter, and people are waiting outside for hours in these gigantic lines to move through and sign the petition. And to Ben's point, like, you would not believe how dismissive everybody was about this idea. Oh, no one cares. There's no appetite for it. No one's really a, Alberta independent separatist. Oh no, there are a lot of us, and they are coming out. They are patient. They are pissed, and they're here to make change.
Yeah. It is absolutely wild. And so how does Bitcoin play into this? I mean, I alluded to it already. We saw, I was going to say the worst, but we don't know the worst. We saw what the Canadian government is capable of when there's a movement that they do not like. And they obviously aren't going to like their little honeypot of oil packing up and leaving. And so this tweet the other day from a gentleman that I know, Mr. David Parker, he says, it will be useless to create the Republic of Alberta if we continue to use government money. I think he's on point here. The new nation of Alberta must have sound money. That means currency backed by reality, not government promises. So he proposes a possible basket could be oil, which there's a lot of here, gold, silver, and Bitcoin. And I'm going to tell you why I like his framing of these things is Bitcoin is so new that it's going to be a hard sell to tell people Bitcoin is going to be the currency of Alberta. Like if you try to go full bore at it, you're not going to make any progress. But in the context of this, I believe this could be sold to the people. Oil makes sense. Gold and silver are very familiar and have a long track record and are recently in the news. So they'll be like, okay, sound money, back currency. Yeah, okay. Bitcoin, how can this be sold? For Albertans, I think it's easy. I think it's, hey, a lot of you here were big supporters of the trucker protests. A lot of you were in Ottawa for that or knew people who were. And they shut down every bank account of anybody involved, anybody on the ground that they could figure out was there. No access to financial anything. They shut down and took any proceeds donated through any traditional means. But then we used Bitcoin, and it was the only donation method, the only digital donation method that actually made it into the hands of the intended recipients. Now, it wasn't done perfectly. I can absolutely attest to that. The speed at which it was done and the speed at which things snowballed, we didn't anticipate. We thought it would be a small part of donations rather than them shutting down bank accounts. But even with the missteps, 70+% of the funds got to the intended recipients. And this is the important part for Albertans to realize. Their involvement in this and the Canadian government's response, because of that, a blueprint for the world has been made of how to actually safely raise funds in an adversarial environment. What do you do? How do you manage keys? How do you manage privacies? What went wrong and how do we fix it? This was a topic of conversation that I did in a keynote speech in Prague months after after everything kind of went through. And I think this is a compelling story for Albertans to hear and for Bitcoiners to get behind, because this just might be, I know there's a lot that has to happen between now and what I'm talking about here, but this just might be the first chance that we have, outside of El Salvador, which has now, reneged upon it because of IMF loans. But Alberta would be a wealthy nation. We would be, again, we're heavy rich in oil and resources. And to back a currency with even in part with Bitcoin, a recognition that this is a sound money, that would be a major change of how things are done in general on Earth. And it could be an example to the world. Now, what would I prefer? I would prefer just we all use Bitcoin. Actually, I would prefer a free market of currencies. I would prefer, Nathan, you were saying just lose the cap gains on stuff and see what happens, right?
100%, right? Just get out of the way, let the market decide. This would be a huge improvement from what we have. And this would be a huge improvement, I think, over USD as well, too. But you don't have to do anything. If you want, you can just do nothing and say, hey, whatever you want to use as money, USD, gold, silver, Bitcoin, don't care. Have at it. Just go do it. Anything that is in the category of a money, just leave it the hell alone and let the free market decide. And I bet you what you'll see initially is probably dominantly USD. I think that'll be the dominant player. But let's Bitcoiners continue to spread the good word, to talk to merchants, to let them know about Bitcoin, and to let people adopt it from a grassroots bottom-up approach versus the top-down, which they did in El Salvador, which I think ultimately led to kind of the failure in terms of it being, the currency there. So I think the best approach is really free market, get out of the way. We will sort this out. It's not a big issue. Just think about how people spontaneously get into lines and form order, right? We will in our own community start to develop this. And again, if the Bitcoiners are the one hanging on to resources, they have power, maybe they have influence in the situation as well too, they will be able to show people that this is the better way, that it works, right? Even just think about Square terminals, right? If we're out of Canada, well, then we can just use the Square terminals. You can take USD or Bitcoin right there with almost no overhead and no headache to it. So the huge, huge opportunity. And it's also a huge opportunity to normalize Bitcoin as this global player, right? I think this is really important both for Alberta and for Bitcoin. And I just want to point out too, one other thing from the trucker protest is really, really key here. Don't forget, that's how they treated us because we had bouncy castles, loud music, and some honking, right? We're stripping them of their golden goose, right?
Yeah.
That is going to get rough. Not only did they financially censor those there at the event, people who donated as little as $50 to the trucker protest had their funds frozen in their accounts. It went absolutely crazy, which is why not only the people directly involved, but those that want to support it, maybe in other parts of Canada or even throughout the world, the people involved need to be able to receive Bitcoin and the donors need to be able to give Bitcoin, right? Send it over Lightning, keep yourself safe. Don't have to worry about, fucking TD coming shutting down your account because you donated $20 to stay free Alberta.
Yeah, exactly. And I just wanted to point out a couple things here. Nathan, I took a page from your book. I said, again, let's lose the cap gains on precious metals and Bitcoin for your market approach to money. Yeah, exactly. And may the best money win. But one of the interesting responses to David, if I can find it, here we go. This is Jeffrey Rapp.
Yeah, I saw that.
This is the dude that's again, kind of spearheading this movement. He's the first person to sign the petition. And he replied to David, 100%. He's keen on the idea. I also replied and said that if he wants some one-on-one Bitcoining, I can fill him in. And actually, the Eva, how do you say Eva Chipiuk. So she's the girl who cross-examined Justin Trudeau on his actions with the Emergencies Act and shutting down bank accounts, all of that. She cross-examined him and just grilled him. But she is a Bitcoiner, and she's a regular attendee of the SAT market here in Calgary, and she works for Jeffrey Rath, who is spearheading the Alberta independence movement. This, I mean, the stars are aligning, my friend. Can you feel it?
I am unbelievably excited. Eva is amazing. She is fucking awesome. And I can't wait to, maybe have her on the show coming up as well too. But the same people that are pushing forth the Alberta independence, right? A lot of them are already in the sound money camp, and a lot of them are already in Bitcoin or supportive of Bitcoin as well too. There is that aligning of the stars that, again, we're all freedom maximists at the end of the day, right? What we want is our own personal sovereignty. What we want is our own ability to dictate our lives, to not be stolen from. Alberta is just a Bitcoiner on steroids, right? It's a province that wants to be a country so it can stop being stolen from by the idiots in Ottawa, right? It's the same thing. It's just personifying that Bitcoin spirit that we're going to do it ourselves. We're going to work hard. We're going to do it on our own. We'll hold ourselves up, and we're going to have sound money for a new, wonderful, sovereign country.
I think the Alberta movement becomes a Bitcoin movement.
I think it does too.
Or I think the Alberta movement becomes widely supported by Bitcoiners.
Yep. It's empowered by Bitcoiners because you know they're going to try and strip us. And if we want to protect ourselves, we need privacy tools. We need money they can't censor or take from us.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I do want to, this stuff is super exciting, but I do want to also kind of stay on the train of censorship resistant tools as well. We get to talk about the news, all the exciting stuff going on, but we also get to advise people on, hey, these are the important tools to check out. So one of them, I did want to let you guys know that I did drop a tutorial on HODLHODL. This is a shortened tutorial for being able to obtain Bitcoin without any identification, so being able to do so privately. And so it's 15 minutes to go through the whole thing from start to finish and learn how to do it. I did drop it on X. It's also on YouTube. You can find it in either place and check it out. 40,000 impressions over on X. So that's pretty solid for a tutorial video. I think it got another 10K.
It's got a great thumbnail.
Yeah, it does. It's great. Thanks, Nathan. But yeah, I mean, go check it out. If you don't know how to get Bitcoin without having to sign up and sling your private information everywhere, then this is a good tutorial for you. And on the topic of free speech, we mentioned it earlier, BitChat. Now, this is one that came out a while ago. I released it back in November. Was really cool to see people using it, not just in political situations, but in natural disasters. I actually had some messages from Bitcoiners down in Jamaica when the hurricane was coming, and they were all getting BitChat in advance, and they were going through the tutorial here to prepare themselves. How do I use this when shit goes sideways? Which is amazing. But more recently, it's being downloaded in Iran, and there's big protests going on there. It's actually gotten to the point where if there's civil unrest, by looking at downloads of BitChat in certain regions, it will kind of like let them know what's going on beforehand. So they'll see like, oh, it's spiking in this nation. There must be stuff about to go down. So they can like predict when stuff is about to blow over, which is wild.
Alberta Bitcoiners, by the way, download BitChat, get it now.
Very important. This is, again, it's just one of those things that you want just in case, and you don't want to be scrambling to figure out how to get it when the time is there. It's better if you already have it. It's a fire extinguisher for free speech.
Damn straight.
Now, I will say, this is interesting on the BitChat side of things. Kale tweeted this. He's the developer that did the Android version. Warning, Iranian BitChat clone raises multiple red flags. So somebody cloned BitChat and then released it in Iran. It's a full clone of their code, but zero attribution or credit. Not open source. The app could be spying on you without your knowledge. Never use a closed source privacy messenger. It asks for money. BitChat is free. This project copied our work, but wants your donations. Fake marketing. The post below pretends the app has top spots in international app stores. This is obviously a lie. Security. Building a secure app is hard. BitChat was audited by security researchers, and we still keep improving it every day. Despite this, we're very aware of risk that comes with using it in adversarial environments. Dropping a closed source clone and marketing it for activism is irresponsible and potentially dangerous. So yeah, somebody dropped a clone of this. We don't know if it's outright malicious or it's just somebody was like, oh, I see an opportunity. I'm going to try and get some money. We're going to close source.
Either way, they're a piece of shit.
Yeah, exactly. This thing is free. It's open to the world. And then they don't attribute anything to the original thing. And then they're charging and they're doing all of this stuff. It's just all of it stinks. So get the actual BitChat app and you should be able to find it easily, but make sure it's the correct one. Now, beyond that, there's even more scams about. So I guess this little part here is just be vigilant, stay vigilant. Chris from Cedar, love him.
Tall guy.
Yeah, very tall, very tall. Public service announcement. There is a growing wave of fake Bitcoin conferences being advertised online. They list real people who were never invited or know about the event, show real sponsors who have no idea they're involved, use AI-generated slick websites, ask for Bitcoin payments only, and they disappear. No event, no refunds. Don't trust, verify. When they accept no Lightning, I knew it was either a scam or Truth Coin. Oh no, calling out Paul Stork. Oh Lord, please share. Anyways, wild.
Yep.
World Bitcoin Hamburg 2026. Interesting. How many confirmations? Wow. Yeah, I actually. I don't want to condone it, but that's a smart scam. I haven't seen that one yet.
Yeah, and even on that note too, guys, by the way, I dropped a podcast earlier this week with Christopher Hadnagy, who is the world's foremost expert in social engineering, these types of scams and attacks. And he goes through basically what to look for, how to be on the lookout, how you can kind of protect yourself, and the other ones that we're seeing right now. I won't say I'm live on the live stream. I had to censor some things going through it, but there are some really dark scams focusing on around getting people's Bitcoin that have skyrocketed in the last year. That is not a good place to be in.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Nathan, I'm gonna toss to you here for just a couple things because I know your favorite section is Canada sucks, and maybe I should have teed this up before the Alberta stuff, so there was a light at the end of the tunnel. But you know, we'll just add fuel to the fire. This is why we want out. So let's start with this. This is Tomer. Breaking news: almost 40% of Canadian real estate investment funds are stopping investors from pulling their money out due to the Canadian housing market collapse. Across Canada, investors who poured billions into private real estate funds suddenly can't touch their money. Stung by a deep downturn in the country's housing market, many of the funds have restricted cash distributions, client withdrawals, or both, in a process the industry calls gating, or just, it's our money now.
It's ours now.
Yeah. Often the companies don't say when access will resume. About 30 billion, almost 40% of the 80 billion invested in such funds is now locked up. What's your read on this, Nathan?
Yeah, Canada's fucked. Alberta's going to win, so we'll be all right there. But it immediately reminds me, I don't know if you've ever seen those. You ever seen those boar traps that they have in like Australian shit? It's basically like a giant pen with a door, and they get throw some food in there and get them in. They just wait, and then bam, they slam that thing shut, right? That's what just happened to these investors. It's like, yes, come invest in Canadian real estate. It's safe. It always goes up and to the right. We never corrected after the housing crisis. Canadian real estate market is fucking atrocious, right? In Alberta, it's actually not too bad. The reason it's not too bad is because people who have a little bit more sense in BC and Ontario have been selling their overpriced property and moving to the freest place in the country, coming to Alberta. So we've had this influx of kind of inter-country migration going on here. But Vancouver, massively down on the year, particularly like anything like the condo or pre-sale market. Toronto is a goddamn nightmare. I've heard about like they're getting 30% price corrections in real estate in Toronto. And I believe I've seen more than that as well too. It's playing shitcoin games over there. The only place I think in the country that's currently up is Halifax, which is a tiny little area, not that big of a deal. So Canadians, made the mistake of turning their homes into their savings account, their only retirement plan, through a shit ton of leverage and bringing in a whole bunch of immigration, right? We're slowing down the immigration because it's not going so well and we can't really sustain it with that human QE element. And basically, this is the whole like tide going out, seeing who's swimming naked, getting some bodies floating up to the surface here. The Canadian real estate market is not done. I don't think we've seen the worst yet. I don't think the bottom is in. I bet you will be more than half of these fucking things gated by the end of the year. And that's why we Bitcoin.
Yeah, exactly. And just for a cherry on top of how well things are going here, this really sucks.
Speaking of bodies.
Yeah, good Lord. Today, Marcilla, mother of 26-year-old Keanu Vavan, who Canada euthanized, read statements from several doctors who refused to approve MAID for him before Dr. Ellen Weave, aka Dr. Death, authorized this. Nathan, for those that don't know, what is MAID and what happened here?
Oh, MAID is, I believe, the almost 1/5 cause of all deaths in Canada. It's pretty high up on the list, like 18% or something. MAID is medical assistance in dying. We will assist you, right? It's just like gender affirming care. Let's find some nice words for basically Dr. Kevorkian over here murdering people. They're straight up killing people. So we have you can request to be euthanized in Canada. And basically, I'll give you the short end of the story here is we have a young man who is suffering from depression and multiple doctors said, no, we're not going to kill you because you're depressed, which just speaks to, we say, the absolute nihilism and state of the Canadian youth, right? There's hope. Come to Alberta. We're going to make it better. But they have one person that basically that went through and did it. And so we had a 26-year-old young man, because he was depressed, kill himself with the aid of doctors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or doctor specifically. There actually was some doctors that were smart enough to go, fuck no, I'm not doing that.
Yeah. This is wild, but we may have a positive. So this story came up a while back. This is a lady from Saskatchewan. But the title now, Canadian woman survives date with death after Glenn Beck's assistance. So Glenn Beck from the US, conservative commentator, came across a story of a woman in Saskatchewan. She had a treatable illness, but they couldn't get her in for it. So they said, okay, well, MAID is here, so you could kill yourself, basically.
Can't schedule you? Have you thought about dying?
Yeah. And it's like, I laugh, but like, it's fucking horrible. And she was like, I guess so. And she was going to do it. This was back in December, early December. And then Glenn Beck was like, listen, guys, if there are people that can treat this illness here in the US, please let me know. We will pay for it, and we will pay for her to come down here and get the appropriate care, which is unbelievable that Canada would be like, it's too busy here. The only thing available is death. And like you were like, well, why wouldn't they just take some of all of the 50% of everyone's paycheck that they take and just send her down to the States to get it done and just pay for that? It's because then it would be an overt admission that our system is failing and we need to rely on a free market system to hold us up. And so that's not what happened. But yeah, so it looks like things have changed. Yeah, and there's a video of him. He's breaking down. He's paying for everything. But yeah, wild. It looks like, yeah, the offer to fly still stands. The Sun is reporting surgeons in Tampa, Saskatchewan, and Ontario are discussing what would be the best next steps in her case. Together, doctors have concocted a strategy. I've been taking high doses of calcium and vitamin D. It's a recommendation from the specialist from Toronto. Surgeon in Florida agreed that that should be tried first. If this brings my parathyroid levels down to low normal, then I don't need another surgery. I need an endocrinologist who deals with patients who need monitoring for the calcium. However, she added, if it does not bring my levels down, there's still another gland inside me somewhere that is overactive. Anyways, long story short, if she needs it, she's got the support. I believe there were some issues with getting her there because she didn't have a passport at the time. But nonetheless, I mean, the state of things, man, the state of things.
Dude,
Wild.
it's so ridiculous. It's not even like, if that wasn't bad enough, like, no, we couldn't possibly allow someone to pay for it and have the service that she needs, voluntarily between two people and make sure that all is well. Alberta doctors were declaring a state of emergency in Alberta healthcare because it was so overcrowded and they couldn't deal with anything. Like, I cannot stress enough how absolutely god awful. We don't have a healthcare system, right? It's like when they did that little name switch. I don't want to, I'll get a little controversial here. It's like when they say like reproductive rights. It's like, no, that's not what you're saying. Or any name on the bill of anything going through government. You just kind of take the inverse of it, like the inverse Kramer, and that's probably what the fuck it's actually doing. It's the same thing. It's not a healthcare system. It in no way is it fostering good health. Not even close. It's basically death and drugs, and will basically try and make you a lifelong kind of, I don't know, chronically ill person that takes a whole bunch of pharmaceuticals.
Yeah. I do want to. Somebody in the chat said, it was a Brew Baby said, the U.S. doesn't exactly have a free market system, and actually, you're right.
True.
It's when you go Canada versus U.S. Canada has like a single payer, basically socialist type healthcare system, and it is buckling under the pressure because of inefficiency. Like, there's no way that they should be able to take basically half of everybody's paycheck, or maybe on the low end of it, like 25 to 30%. But basically taking half by the time you get through all of the other taxes that happen throughout your life, and not be able to have enough to care for things for everybody. It's the fact of the matter is that there's no incentive for it to actually be efficient and work. Now, in the US, it's an entirely different thing. You've got this crony capitalism where, medical companies big pharma gets in bed with government agencies and insurance, exactly, to limit optionality, to limit cheap options, to keep other people out of the industry, and then things skyrocket. There's all the issues with insurance. Like, oftentimes you'll go to get something done. If you don't have insurance, it's cheaper than if you do. And even still, like, they realize, like, oh, if you've got insurance, we can charge way more. And once you say you have insurance, you can't go back the other way. Like, it's wild down there too.
Even crazier than that, I did a podcast last year with Andy Schoonover from Crowd Health, right? But the insurance companies can only profit like a certain percentage, like what they can make like 15% on what's going. So both the insurance and the hospital have incentives to raise the price because they're limited in how much they can profit off of that based on proportion. So they have every reason to drive it up. But at least you could fucking pay for it instead of dying.
Yeah, exactly. When given the option of, would you like to be dead or bankrupt? I'll take
bankrupt. Yeah, every time. I'm not paying that bill. It's fine.
Yeah. But the important thing to note is, those on a global stage, those aren't the only two things that people have figured out how to do. There are other options out there. There is such thing as not being in either extreme of crony capitalism or socialist hellhole. No. There is somewhere in the middle where you can actually have options that are reasonably priced. So nonetheless, maybe we can build that in the free state of Alberta.
Yep, I think we will. I think it's going to be a wonderful, free market, beautiful place that you're all welcome if you're a Bitcoiner. Everybody else can fuck off.
Amazing. Well, this caps us out for this episode. This was an absolute blast. Guys, thank you for being here. If you enjoyed the convo, please do drop a like on the video. If you're brand new here, welcome to the channel. Make sure you're subscribed so you hit us up with our weekly news shows, our panel shows, Nathan's amazing interviews, and his wonderful co-host, Gary, as well as the most important cream of the crop, the tutorials. If you don't know how to use Bitcoin in a sovereign manner, you are missing the entire point of the entire movement. So BTC Sessions is your home base to use, master, and live Bitcoin. So make sure you keep on coming back. We'll see you guys for the next one. I'm Ben with BTC Sessions. This was Nathan, and this was your weekly session. See you later, guys. Hey, you. Yes, you watching the Bitcoin price movements and the latest exciting news. It's awesome to stay informed, but the real power of Bitcoin comes from taking control. Don't just watch, take action. Head over to btcsessions.ca/learn for free step-by-step tutorials that guide you through every major skill you need to know, plus full video playlists for deeper dives on any topic you like. And if you're ready for the ultimate fast track, scroll to the bottom and check out bitcoinmentor.io for premium one-on-one experience with my team of Bitcoin experts to ensure you get it right the first time. Don't wait. Secure your Bitcoin future today. Hit the link in the show notes or scan the QR code on the screen.